Last week, I found myself crying over a lump of clay. And it's not because I've lost my mind per se, although might be debatable some days. I was crying because my hands were remembering something that my brain was actually trying to avoid. It was grief. And in my grieving, I was feeling like that heavy lump of clay, and I had a desire to feel more alive, more in the present moment, where there were other things there to feel grateful or joyful about. My hands were creative, yes, but more so, they were guiding me to reclaim a state of play. And in that way, play is not frivolous, it's healing. Grief might not be a smooth road, I'll be the first to admit that, but emotional constipation, that shit will make you crazy. So I did what any self-honoring romantic renegade would do. I turned that lump of emotions into my therapeutic art. There's this, I don't know, irritating polarity out there. On the one side, there's a cosmetic crowd that says self-care is bubble baths, detox teas, and good vibes only. And on the other hand, there's this liberation glory thing, self-care set that says we got to make it hypersexualized, glitter-coated hustle culture. And then there's that spiritual hopium that promises enlightenment if you could just chant louder or buy more moon water, right? And somewhere between cucumber mist and chaos, we've kind of lost the real source. What if self-care wasn't some kind of a performance or some kind of escapism, but that everyday magical practice of simply being human? Self-care with what I call wildhood, it doesn't smell like an inner child cookie jar. It smells like sweat and pheromones, like being deliciously and messily alive. Yeah, it's definitely not about perfection. It's more about permission to try, to be a mess, to serve the emotional labors we're carrying, that invisible work of holding and then letting go. So when we fall apart, maybe we're not failing. Maybe we're simply coping. Maybe we're composting something sacred. So if I had a cup, I would give a cheers to the emotional forecast these days. It's like 80% chance of overwhelm, a scattering storm of grief, and then a scorching wildfire of, I just can't do this anymore. Yeah, like emotions are actually part of being alive. And so we need to stop treating them like enemies and start reading them like meteorologists or something. Nature doesn't have to apologize for the rain. Thunder doesn't say, "Ooh, I'm sorry for being so loud." It's not about fixing emotions. It's about feelings being felt. That's self-care. So let's try something and kind of get into sharing it as a community, because there's an auto care thing, and then there's like a co-caring way to do this. So what I want you to do is like stand up with your feet planted kind of wide. See if I can do it. You're gonna bend your knees slightly and have your fists clenched, right? And then I want you to pause this recording if you've already done it live and try it again. Or if this is the first time you're doing it, what you're gonna do is with your clenched fists, clench everything and then like do a sound, do a visceral, wild sound, a growl, a purr, a howl, or a low and long hum. And I want you to feel that. Are you humming that? Are you growling there? Feel where that is vibrating with aliveness in your body right now. And then stop. And then just clench and release your pelvic floor a few times. the muscles down there. Just hold them and release them, hold them and release them. And then I want you to just put your hands on your hips or give a victory pose of some kind and lift your chin and open your heart. And then if you want to do a bonus round, you could take an extra minute to just sort of coo to yourself as you rub or massage some parts of your body. Okay. And then just take a couple of deep breaths and just release all that. Can you feel that aliveness, that tingling sense, that vibration of I'm here, look out, right? The wild parts of us get into that like isolation and shame spirals, but that's just the patriarchal henchman who's trying to keep us all separate, compliant, and in self-doubt so they can control us. But connection, laughter, embodied honesty, those are the radical acts of power. And that's why my badassery self-care circle project is existing right now. It's intended fully to be a brave, beautiful space where we can alchemize all that old traditional baggage that might have some things we want still to pull out of the past and into the future, but we want to now co-create more authentic, living rituals, ceremonies, living and breathing, organic kinds of making life romantic and beautiful and real. Real self-care is where we do cry, we cackle sometimes, we remember that desire and devotion are not oppositional. They're actually same sides of the same coin. They're dance partners. So I offer these circles not in an effort to try to give you more performance anxiety, not to try to change you or fix you or improve you in any way. This circle is really here to remind you that you're still wildly and gloriously alive in the midst of everything that life throws at you. So if this little check-in and recalibration of the realities of self-care has stirred something inside of you, if your grief or your burnout or your hunger for beauty is whispering, let's actually create a new kind of self-care out of an authentic, honest desire, this is your invitation to step inside this self-care circle, to contribute, to share your voice, your opinion, your emotions in a space where you can be witnessed. So you don't have to pretend to be anything. You can have something deeper than all this self-help fluff. You can be with people who laugh, who cry, and who get back into the ring of life and do their important work. If you're ready to turn burnout, boredom, grief into alchemy, we're going to practice that. We're going to practice guided structures, fresh ideas, co-create something really magical together. So remember, you can't pour from an empty chalice, but you can sip slowly from a magical brew that gets passed down from one badass to another. Life isn't a real neat timeline. It's actually a storm system most of the time. And some days you're going to wake up radiant, positive, brewing with energy. And some days you're going to be a walking symphony of what the fuck is going on. But amidst it all, you are the altar. You are the bearer of the crown. You are the source of a deeply soul-drenched ritual, not some kind of an actress or afterthought, the alchemist. So badass self-care is where you're going to make holy and human have a little dance. use the same sentences. So if you're being in this space and joining into this circle, I'd really love to hear from you in the next 3 days. And of course, you're welcome to check out my website. I have other little goodies over there. So this is me. I'm Loren Wild. I am the solo caretaker of Meliora Therapeutic Studio, which includes badassery, self-care, and also maps to intimacy programs. So love to hear from you and welcome.